Hey y'all, welcome back. It's John, and I have a really basic question for you. Has anyone told you that you can be a millionaire? That in your lifetime, you can save and invest your way to over $1 million? If you haven't heard this message before, well, you've come to the right place because it's absolutely doable, and we're not talking about people who've inherited the money, say from their, Daddy Gates or something like that, or people who are neurosurgeons making $700,000 a year. I'm talking about average, everyday people can save and invest their way to over $1 million in their lifetime. You often see stories of a janitor who passes away and has a huge pile of money he leaves to a charity or something like that. And we all think, well, what a cool story, but it's absolutely doable. And I want to instill that belief in you. I feel that this has really been lost in our society. When I was growing up, there was a sense that it could be done and you could do it. And, sure, people wanted to be financial advisors, stock analysts, run, be the CEO of a huge company. But there was this sense that the average everyday person could do it. And there were articles and there were newspaper articles, columns, books written about it. Now it's all us versus them. The wealthy are bad. And the majority of the wealthy in America, fully 88% of the people who are millionaires in America are first generation. They saved and invested, worked their way to over $1 million. Now, if you do have $1 million in America today, you're not going to be living on a yacht and smoking cigars and living the good life like a billionaire. But consider this little fact, that if you think about getting to retirement, the average retirement payment from Social Security, the average Social Security payment is just over $1,500 a month. Now, I don't know about you, but that's not going to be nearly enough in my later years to enjoy life a little bit. So the only option is to have the financial discipline to save and invest your way to the future. Now, this video is largely aimed for those of you who are younger. If you're in high school, fresh out of college, you've got to think about the future, and it can be very hard. There's a lot of distractions out there. There's a lot of shiny objects out there that you need to go chase. And I say that it takes discipline and it takes time on your side. It takes the discipline to control your spending, and it takes time to know you need to start right now with an eye on the future. And we're going to talk about those two things today. I'm not only going to show you it's possible, but I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. And before I jump in, I want to say a big thank you to those in my past who have shown me it's possible. One of which is a gentleman by the name of Umberto Cruz. And I want to give, this is a big thank you to him. I don't know if he's still alive or not, but he was a syndicated columnist with the South Florida Sun Sentinel. And he wrote about personal finance. And I read this for years. I read his columns. I absolutely loved him. Now, his approach was more extreme than what I do. Things like keeping the air conditioning at like 82 during the summers, not going to happen. Little things like they wouldn't take a single trip to the store unless they had other stores to go to reduce the amount of gas they were going to use on a trip. But they didn't live like paupers. They lived off of a journalist's salary. They budgeted for what they needed. They took vacations. But they didn't put it all on credit card. They were careful with their money and focused on monthly sending money to their investments. And I remember reading his article where he realized that he and his wife, their net worth had crossed $1 million. It meant so much to me to see that a person living off of a basic income could do it. Again, at $1 million, you're not going to be outrageously wealthy in retirement, but it beats relying on the government to be there for you. So for the people who are watching this, the first part I talk about is discipline. And people don't like that term discipline, but it really means doing what you know you need to do when the motivation to do it has left you. You know you need to save for the future, but you really want that Starbucks today, or you want to go out with friends for dinner. And I'm not saying don't do that stuff, but it's about living consciously with your money. It's about not just unconsciously spending. I hate this phrase, disposable income. You are trading your life to earn money. So if you consider your income disposable, you're really disposing of your life. Okay? Maybe you don't buy that. Maybe that's too esoteric for you today. But the fact remains is that every little dollar is a seed that you can either make work for you or you can waste it. I enjoy Starbucks once in a while. I took my wife out yesterday for lunch, but we do so consciously. We don't eat out 5 nights a week. We don't go to Starbucks 5 times a week. We're very careful with our money in that respect, and that leaves us with extra money to put towards investments. We cross-shop our insurance. We live roughly by a budget. We're careful with our grocery purchases, for example. We plan things out. And when it comes time to buy a car, for example, we do often months of research before we figure out what we're looking for and then wait for the right one to show up at the right price. It's not knee-jerk for us, and this is what you need to be doing. There's going to be plenty more videos about budgeting, saving, getting your finances under control, but I'm assuming that most of you watching this do have some money that you could go find, you could cut, not affect your lifestyle, and find $100, $200 or more that you could start investing. The time on your hands, the time on your side portion, number 2, is about using time for you. Markets go up, markets go down, and you should stop caring. You should drip money into your investments every single month. Without fail, don't follow the markets. Hey, you know, when it goes down, you're buying more stocks. When it goes up, hey, guess what? Your value is going up too. It's called dollar cost averaging. And so find a number that you can live with and start dripping it out there. And as your situation improves, as you have more money, as you get raises, as you pay off debt, start dripping more in there. I find that one of the things psychologically that stops people is the sense that I really don't have enough, that it's not going to matter. And I reject that. You know, if you can only find $25, put $25 in. And psychologically, it's a little depressing, right? At the end of the year, you're like, oh, I've got $500, big deal. No, but it matters because it starts a habit. And investing is a little bit addictive, honestly. Once you start and you start seeing results, it's slow, but you start to get addicted to how much can it actually become. So message number 1 is wherever you are, get started right now. Use time on your hands. Use time on your side. And as you pay off debts, as you get your finances better, as you get those raises, pump more into your retirement, into your investments, because you're going to see bigger and bigger results from it down the road. So I'm going to flip over here real quick and I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. Now this is actually a calculator from Bankrate. I really like this one. It's a little complicated, but I'm going to walk you through it and I'm going to show you what kind of numbers we're really talking about here. And so I'm going to assume, again, you're young and you've got a 40-year work history ahead of you. It might be depressing. Maybe you want to retire early. Hey, whatever. But let's just assume we've got 40 years to work with. You've got $100 right now. Rate of return on your investment, I say 8%. The average of the market is somewhere between 7 and 9, 7 and 11. It just depends on where you start measuring from. I feel 8% is a relatively conservative number. Again, we might have a big downturn. We certainly will sometime in the future. It might drop 11, 20, 30%. It might go up 30%. So I just assume kind of 8% as a nice safe one. And I'm going to set a periodic contribution right here of $100 per month. At the end of 40 years, you're going to have $353,855. You're a long way away from your $1 million goal. But pause for a second here, because if you got to retirement, and again, you've got to go live off of your Social Security, which is $1,000, $1,500 a month, an extra $353 in the bank where you could pull out theoretically $1,000 a month extra, that's almost life-changing. Okay? So what I don't have is a calculator that allows me to increase the contribution every year over, say, a 40-year period. I've looked, I can't find one. If you know of one, please let me know below. But I'm going to increase this to $250. It's not going to be enough, but I'm going to show you this. At the end of 40 years, you'd have $880,000, almost $881,000. So using that, we're going to jump up, let's say $300 a month. You have over $1 million. There you go. Now, for those of you who think, what the heck are you talking about? I could never send $300 a month. That's a car payment for me, right? I get it. But what I'm talking about here is starting with what you can. If it's $50, if it's $100 a month, just get started, because it will matter down the road. And circumstances change. You get promotions, you get raises, things improve for you. Maybe you boost that up to $150, then $200. Maybe you get married. We, just for example, don't quite, but almost live off of just one of our incomes, not salary. If we can live off of one and invest all the rest, and you can do that too, all of a sudden you're talking about putting $500, $1,000 or more a month into investments. This number can start to get scary big. So assume that that $300 a month I'm talking about right here is an average over your life. Start where you can, boost it as you can, make investing part of your budget, make it something you do every month with consistency, increase it over your life, and you're going to see big numbers. The other thing I'm going to say here is this is in addition to anything you're doing with an employee-sponsored plan like a 401k. If your employer has a 401k set up and they match up to say 3 or 4% of your salary put into that 401k, maximize it up to whatever the company will match. If they match 3%, you put in 3% of your income, they give you 3 more percent. It's like 3% free money. Now it's kind of locked away, not exactly for retirement, but that's above and beyond what you're doing here for your investments. Imagine a world where you're putting 3% of your salary over here, you're putting, let's say 10% over here into an investment. And that's my goal, my message to you. Put 10 to 15% aside over here into an investment. All of a sudden you end up with $2 million at retirement. See where I'm going here? And this is above and beyond if you do any other side hustles or anything like that. So guys, I'm telling you, I want you to believe this is absolutely doable. Because if you've got, say you're 18, and you've got, let's say you're going to work 45 years, all of a sudden it's $1.5 million. Let's just pretend, go down to 200, it's still $1 million. So if you had 5 more years to your working life and you can only do $200, well, all of a sudden you're still at over $1 million. It's all about time on your hands and consistency. Now I'm going to interject here. I am not a financial advisor. I am actually a realtor. I have an engineering degree, and I did that for about 15 years. So I love math. I believe everything here about investing it's just math. So I'm not a financial advisor, and we do have one. In spite of my knowing about this, in spite of my self-directed investments, my wife and I have a financial advisor. It's nice to have somebody to bounce ideas off of, to say, I want to do this. And they're like, well, what have you considered this? It's nice to have that challenge, but I've got a very simple plan that is kind of the core of my investments. I do a little bit of trading of stocks, of buying stocks. I actually use Webull, and you can join, and with a $100 deposit, you get 2 free stocks. Guys, it's like free money. There's a link in the description below for that. And then our advisor is with Edward Jones. Love him to death. We've used him for years, and again, we like that challenge of what we're going to do. But your question now may be, well, how do I do this? Where do I invest? Well, not a financial advisor, you've got a lot of research you can go do, but start off looking at Fidelity. Vanguard or Charles Schwab. Mutual funds you can buy into, they collect huge buckets of stock, and I like index funds. Instead of trying to guess and beat the market, and I've got a whole video about index funds and why they beat almost every other kind of fund out there, because the other funds are actively managed, they're actively trading stocks, and they want to be paid for it. Index funds just buy the stocks and let it sit there, so their fees are extremely low, which increases your return, your net return. I like the S&P 500 index fund. If I could go out and just buy one thing, I would buy an S&P 500 index fund. And then I've got a couple of other funds that I buy to kind of supplement that. Now, I've got a whole video called My 3-Bucket Strategy where I talk about those three, but that's the core of my investing. If all you're going to do is get started and start dripping some money out there, get a great big index fund like an S&P 500 and start funneling your money into there. Don't try to beat the market, just track the market as it grows. So I hope this helps. I really wanted to show you, number one, that it can be done and how to do it. But more importantly, it's that belief, to get that fire started in your brain that I can be a millionaire in my life.